Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, yo, what's going on? Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I'm going to go over lower energy bids channel later today. We're going to be playing more Crisis Core, where we joke about how Crisis Cores can't possibly be canon. But, alas, I'm going to jump into this real quick, because I don't really have any announcements. Debate Pub is on Saturday. So if you like politics and you want to hear smarter people than me talk about it, join us on Debate Hub Official. Hi, I'm Chesh. Welcome. We're talking about the Conservative Party of Canada's policy declaration. Now, just to be clear, this policy declaration was amended by the delegates as of September 9th, 2023. So anything that is been resolved or changed, yeah, that's possible. As far as I know, they haven't put out a new one, and this is their equivalent of Project 2025. This is what they intend to do and what they've been working towards and what they want to happen, both for the presidency, the prime minister, as well as for any local governments that they control or any provincial things that they control. Now that that's over with, did I tell you who I am? You know, it's fine. It doesn't matter. We were past criminal justice. We are on communications. So let's just jump down here. It's not going to be actually 35. It'll actually be past that because it's 35 in the document, and it is actually... Here we go. Page 35 in the document, page 43 in the PDF. If you're following along, the PDF is in the description, and you can feel free to take a look at it yourself and have fun with that. All right. Communications. This is probably one of the ones that I find fairly egregious. I think going to war with Big Bird is fucking stupid, but that's just me. Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC. We've looked at the CBC here before. We look at their news articles sometimes. I had people accusing me of only looking at CBC, and I didn't look at CBC at all, so I decided to go look at CBC because, you know, I'm a sassy bitch like that. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, Conservative Party believes in a stable Canadian presence in a varied and vibrant broadcasting system. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, SRC, should offer a wide range of Canadian and international programming while being respectful of Canadian content. The system should provide audiences with maximum choice and have the ability to utilize new technologies to achieve its public and private objectives. The CBC/SRC is an important part of the broadcasting system in Canada and must be a true public service broadcaster relevant to Canadians. We will, accordingly ensure the CBC/SRC 1. Rationalizes any programming that overlaps or competes with private sector equivalents. No. No. Reduces its reliance upon government funding and subsidy. It is a public service broadcaster. No. You're telling them they're not allowed to compete in the private sector but have to make money in the private sector. You make it make sense. Reflect regional and demographic diversity of Canada in its role as a public broadcaster. Sure. Responds and is accountable to its audience. I mean, what does that mean to you? Because I feel like that means teach the other side. Not all opinions are equal, is what I'm getting at here. Supplies balanced and non-partisan programming. Hey. What did I just say? Stop that. No. Bad. Bad conservatives. Bad. No. We recognize that, like, right now, yeah, translation, you should enable our lives and have equal footing with reality. Yo, Alex called that. Called it. 100%. Let's be real here. What I'm doing right now is giving them a more than fair shake at looking through their actual policies and talking about what works, what doesn't, and why it works or why it doesn't. That is fair and equal. Right? That's balanced and nonpartisan. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm objective. We recognize the vital role played by the private broadcasters of Canada through their local and regional programming. Oh, you mean like the Chatham-Kent Asset Management, or sorry, the Chatham Asset Management, or like them? That reflects the language and multicultural realities of our country. Yeah, fully American owned. Yeah. Private sector broadcasters and service providers, first and foremost, are businesses. No. Well, as a private sector, I guess, are businesses, and must be able to compete in an ever-increasing fragmented and global market. When you have a vertical monopoly, it's hard to say that the market is fragmented. You know what I mean? We recognize the need for both regulatory flexibility and predictability. Broadcasting policy in Canada must be relevant in today's communications environment and responsive to demands of Canadians. We believe the government should review and update the Broadcasting Act to ensure its relevance in today's technological environments. I'm okay with that. Updating that to make sure that it's relevant with technology, good call. I'm fine with that. That makes sense. We believe the government should establish clear national policy directions and framework that will maximize the freedom of choice and ensure that freedom of speech is respected. Okay, so freedom of speech is not freedom to say whatever the fuck you want, right? You prefer one over the other in any aspect, you are not neutral. That is not what that means. I appreciate your attempt. Not what that means. Perhaps a discussion for another day. You know what? We'll cover that on the philosophy show. We will talk about partisanship. We can talk about neutrality. We can talk about how to be objective, etc., etc. Dealing with biases. The CRTC's role in content regulation should be reduced to eliminate duplication where other legislation exists. Sometimes it really just depends. Sometimes duplication is intentional and is on purpose, and sometimes it's redundant and not necessary. So you really have to, and sometimes it's really hard to tell which one is which, just especially at a glance. We believe that control and operations of CBC/SRC could be best accomplished through establishing distinct budgets for the operations of the internet, TV, and radio broadcast functions. Canadian production industry. The conservative... You don't entertain lies like you would the truth if you believe so. What? You guys are adorable. I love it when people don't know what objective means. And confuse it with bias, or confuse it with coming to a conclusion. Being neutral doesn't mean you don't come to a conclusion ever. Yeah, distinct budgets. I don't know what that means. We believe that control and operations of CBC/SRC could be best accomplished through establishing distinct budgets. So I think that, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's saying that there needs to be a budget for internet, a budget for TV, and a budget for radio, instead of just one budget to then be dispersed as the CBC views necessary. So this looks like it's just micromanaging, at best, and doging at worst. The Conservative Party recognizes that the creative community gives expression in the film and electronics media to Canada's identity and peoples. Yes, artists are the mechanics and producers of culture. They are often interwoven. Yes, absolutely. The production industry must be strengthened to participate in a global market and become self-sustaining, thriving industry with a skilled workforce. Okay, you want the public service, the public broadcasting service that is for Canadians, to participate in the global market? Listen, I'm fine with like getting the BBC. I like getting the BBC, but their focus should not be the global market and my entertainment as a Canadian, right? And the same applies to the CBC. Like, it's not... what? Internet connectivity. The Conservative Party recognizes the vital importance of internet connectivity to full Canadian participation in global market, social and cultural communities. The government should create an environment that encourages private sector investment to increase broadband infrastructure, especially in rural and remote areas of Canada. Great. So I agree with this. You need to have better infrastructure and better internet in rural areas in Canada. There's a lot of places that suffer really, really bad and if you want people to expand, investing in infrastructure is a good idea. How are you going to pay for it? In the last 10 years, Bell and Rogers, which are our big telecommunications companies, because there's only two of them because they have a duopoly, were given a bunch of money by the government to upgrade a bunch of rural areas. They did not fulfill that obligation, and it's been in court. It's been in court for a while. Parliament keeps having to look at it because it keeps getting put off. Google was supposed to come to Canada. They're not here because they got bullied out by the red tape that Bell and Rogers put in the way. Lobbying, i.e. So, how are you going to pay for it? And how are you going to do this? How are you going to force Bell and Rogers to fulfill their obligations? They've already got the money. And a reason I bring this up, and I'm not asking, I don't mean a detailed plan. I mean, how are you going to make this happen when every other thing, the solution for everything else that you have is by cutting taxes? And again, it's not like they don't have how they're going to do things in here. They just have it for some things and not for others. Like I said, their solution to everything is essentially cut taxes. So, if you're cutting taxes, what money are you investing in infrastructure, and where are you getting that money from? The one benefit of Canada is that you have a public broadcaster that is accountable only to the public. Other broadcasters are accountable to their advertisers and corporate owners. Yes, absolutely. Yes. The CBC is, whether you agree with everything they put out or not, is not the point. The point is that they exist and are functional. Kennedy's satellite internet. We have satellite internet. Bell has satellite. We have satellite internet. It just sucks, and nobody likes it. Improving access to reliable and affordable internet. The Conservative Party of Canada recognizes the importance of dependable and affordable internet. A Conservative government will work with provinces, territories, industry, stakeholders, and communities to ensure all Canadians have access to reliable and quality internet. So if you want to know how this one manifested, because again, this was written in 2023 and is their ongoing plan, right? Doug Ford cut a deal with Elon Musk for Starlink. Nobody liked that. That deal has since been, as far as I've been aware of, completely torn to shreds as of right now. I still don't think a deal with Starlink would be a good idea, period, at all. I think Elon Musk needs to fuck off forever. But alas, we will see. So they haven't succeeded in doing this, but there was an attempt. Privacy and personal data protection. Well, they already gave the bag away on that one. The Conservative Party believes digital privacy is a fundamental right that urgently requires strengthened legislation, protections, and enforcement. Canadians must have the right to access and control collection, use, monitoring, retention, and disclosure of their personal data. International violations should receive enforcement assistance from the Canadian government. I agree with this. I'm gonna go ahead and put a caveat. I'm gonna put a little star on this, because again, they already said they want to give carte blanche access to your medical records to the police. Yeah, the EU GDPR. Absolutely. Yeah, something like that. That would be great. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing. When this document and the conservatives say something like this in a bubble, yes, I generally agree that people's privacy should be protected. And then when they explain how, or you find out that it contradicts something else they've already said, it kind of falls to the wayside, right? So how are they going to do this? And again, like I said, sometimes they tell you how they're going to do it, and sometimes they don't. So again, how are you going to do this? You've cut all the grants, you've cut all the funding, you've cut the taxes. How are you going to do this? By what means? What lawyers? How are you paying the lawyers? And I think it's an absolutely fair question that when the conservatives say they want to do something, one of the first questions any conservative should ask is, how are you going to pay for it? Because that is literally the question they ask for everything. Mostly because they don't understand economics and have no fucking fiscal understanding at all. Celebrating Canada's diversity, as we've proven twice in these videos. Minimum. Celebrating Canada's diversity. Diversity principles. The Conservative Party believes that communism? Communism. Hell yeah, let's go. Diversity principles. The Conservative Party believes that Canada's multicultural society is a valued reality and accepts the need to foster understanding and equality of opportunity, which is totally why the leader of this party hates immigrants. And hates women. And hates indigenous people. Did I miss anybody? I think he hates the military, if I'm not mistaken, but I might be misremembering that. I remember veterans getting absolutely fucked over by the Conservative Party during the Harper administration, and I feel like I remember Trudeau getting slammed for something on Remembrance Day that was just not true that Pierre Poilievre was putting out, but I'd have to look. I'd have to double check. While expecting Canadians to adopt Canadian common values such as equality, democracy, and the rule of law. Okay, yeah, this is that's not. Again, in a bubble, this would be fine. In a bubble, this would be okay. However, it's not in a bubble. Multiculturalism. The Conservative Party recognizes the rich, diverse makeup of the Canadian population and the contribution of these communities to our history and the Canadian way of life. The government should ensure that each community is able to enhance and contribute to Canada without discrimination barriers. Sure. By doing what? Like, again, I am confused by, like, you're just stating this blanket thing that has nothing, there's no weight to it. In fact, the weight to it is actually the things you've said and done, like telling Indigenous people that they need to learn the value of hard work, and talking about how much you hate immigrants. So, like, when they say diversity, they mean different types of conservatives. They're talking about all the denominations of Christianity. Just saying you do is not actually doing it. Feline. You know, Feline, one of these days, me and you are gonna have to, like, go out for coffee. Like, that's gonna... I mean, I'm not gonna get coffee, and you're probably not gonna get coffee, but we need to go to, like, a cafe. And just hang out. Oh, good God. Official languages. The Conservative Party believes that Canada's official languages constitute unique and significant social and economic advantages that benefit all Canadians. I would agree. We recognize and support the important contributions of official language minority communities to Canada. All right, hear me out. Hear me out. maybe I'm an extreme leftist for saying this. I think all public schools should be French immersion. I think basically everyone in Canada should be semi-fluent in French. And it should be French immersion from K to 12. That's my opinion. That's what I think. I think that would be fantastic. I think that would be great. I don't think that's something you could snap your fingers and do. But that's how I think it should be. If we want to be like a proper bilingual country and we want to have proper multi-official languages, and then instead of having a French class, you have an Indigenous Studies class. And so you learn culture, Indigenous culture and language and etc., etc., etc. That's my opinion. That's what I think. We have a required French course. We already have a required French course. You have to take French at least once in high school. Sometimes they'll let you pick Spanish depending on where you go, but you have to. I'm saying that all public schools should be French immersion. French immersion means your teachers speak French. So you basically, the way the school works is you immerse yourself in the language. So basically your studies would take place while you're in school. You'll be speaking French to your teachers and you'll be taking your classes in French. Yeah. That's called French immersion. I don't know if it's called, if there are the equivalent in other places. Yes, and you're required to respond in French. I think all schools should be French immersion. Textbooks are in French, yep. I can tell you, having French courses from K to 12 are not good enough. And I know this because I took French. I had a French course. I just happened the way it worked out. I ended up being in French from grade 1 all the way through to grade 9 or grade 10. I promise you, one class a day in French will not be good enough, and it will not be consistent enough. But that's my opinion. Again, I'm not saying that we have to do this. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker. I just think it would be cool. All of them. All the provinces, all the territories. French immersion should be all public schools. And that includes the Catholic schools, by the way, you little fuckers. Don't think I'm not fucking watching you. Fucking Catholic school. Yeah, we have Catholic schools. That's the thing we have. Anyway. You know what's interesting? Side note. Sorry. So we have Catholic school, right? And the Catholic schools get public funding, right? And they still have to meet the the educational requirements. We still have less young earth creationists because the Catholic schools don't fuck with that. Alright. Back to actually getting through this. That's just my opinion, alright? Again, maybe that's extreme left. I don't even know if that would be left or right. Honestly, I don't think that's a political spectrum thing. I'm pretty sure that's just yeah, that's a bit of a bit of a far goal, you know what I mean? Eh. I just think it'd be great if everybody could speak multiple languages. Plenty of other countries have English as a requirement. So I don't know why we wouldn't have French as a requirement. Why not? It'd be cool if there were a handful of options, but that would only be if you were going to private school, which there are French immersion schools and you can go to them, but having that requirement would be super fucking cool. The Bloc would support it. Hell yeah, the Bloc would support it. I think it's a great idea. We could send you Kent Hovind and Ken Ham. Do it. Do it. Send Kent Hovind and Ken Ham to Canada. Ken Ham's got a thing that he does in Canada. He's got a homeschooly fucking thing that he does that he's like, here's all the homeschooling shit, blah, 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 blah. And it gets like dunked on every fucking year. Every fucking year. Universal language. So, I don't hate having a quote unquote like common, like D&D has common. I don't hate it. I don't know if it would be very great socially. And I think that English is currently taking up that space as close as you could probably get, which I don't know what I think about that. To be honest, I don't know if I have a real opinion. My girlfriend speaks English as a second language. Primarily, it was required in her country. Yeah, exactly. So we should just do that, but do French. I think that'd be cool. And then instead of having like your French class, let people take Korean or Japanese or Chinese or Mandarin or Dutch. Right? I think that'd be cool. Klingon. German. Anyway. We support the Official Languages Act, ensuring that English and French have equality of status and equal rights and privileges as to their use in all institutions. Oh, and sign language. Sign language should be a requirement. Everybody should know sign language. The fact that we don't is fucking insane. You should be fluent in sign language. So here's what I would do. I would adopt some of what Tom said, and I would say make all of the schools French immersion, and then have a K-12 sign language class, where you just speak in sign language in class all day. That's just what you do. And make it like a hangout period. And be like, listen, this is your hangout period. We're teaching you the signs, and then you just sit and converse amongst yourselves in sign language. Ta-da! So you just replace French with sign language and make it one to or probably maybe not kindergarten, because maybe kindergarten, maybe like when you're learning the alphabet and you're learning your colors, you learn the sign for the colors in the alphabet. When you're reading, you read out loud and you do the signs while you're reading. Like, that'd be cool. That'd be pretty fucking cool. I think we could do that. I think that's a thing we could do. But we would need teachers that know how to do that, and we would have to pay teachers more, because we should do that anyway, but whatever. Anyway, we support the Official Languages Act, ensuring that English and French have equality of status and equal rights and privileges as to their use in all institutions of Parliament and the Government of Canada. Yeah, okay. We encourage the government to continue working with provinces and territories to enhance opportunities for Canadians to learn and use both official languages. Yeah, see, look, they agree with me. That's not what they're saying. Canadian heritage and culture. Heritage principles. The Conservative Party affirms the federal government's role in the preservation of Canada's natural and historical heritage, which is totally why Harper went through and just deleted all of our weather data. Such as national parks, museums, and historical sites, which is totally why Harper sold out a bunch of our conservation areas to people like Nestle. Sorry, companies like Nestle. For the benefit and enjoyment of all, and as an enduring reminder to all Canadians of our common inheritance. Okay. Art, so they have nothing to say about arts and culture. The Conservative Party supports arts, culture, and the diverse heritage of Canada. Recognition that language is an integral part of one's culture and heritage should form the basis for decision-making related to its cultural and artistic community. We encourage the government to recognize the diverse cultural nature of Canada and its shared history, and to take those into account when working to strengthen opportunities and access in both domestic and international markets for our creative works. So does that mean, so if I'm like publishing a book, I'm just trying to understand what this says. So if I'm publishing a book, does that mean that like the Canadian government should make it or assist in making it easier for me to publish my book in French and English. If you actually pay teachers what they are worth, you might wind up with an actual educated populace, and we know the conservatives, the conservatives want an uneducated populace that they can gaslight. Oh well, you know. They've made a lot of so again, for example, just to give right-handed Sith a point that they're not pulling that out of their ass. One of the things that Doug Ford, who is the conservative premier of Ontario, has put forward and has been trying to do is set our sex education back to what it was in the 80s. That's like what he's been working on and one of the things he's been trying to do. So rolling back education and regressing is definitely a part of the Canadian Conservative Party's agenda, and has been for a while. I don't know if I'd have to go digging to find a time, if a time existed before they were regressive. These are the type of people who shit on Indigenous art. I'll believe their commitment when I see it. I mean, I think you should feel that way about every politician. Every version of politics. You shouldn't believe it until you see it. You can be more or less optimistic. Never give... In fact, I do not think it's a good idea to ever give the benefit of the doubt to a political party. Like, don't do that. Don't give the benefit of the doubt to these people. Make them tell you. Make them walk you through it. Make them show you. Hold them accountable. Like, do not give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't do that. That's a bad time. That's a bad idea. Understand that they are also still people. We believe that government support should be linked to accountability, transparency, and sustainability. For art? The fuck does that mean? We believe that ongoing scrutiny is necessary to ensure programs and policies effectively meet their objectives, to ensure that they are based on merit and remove political involvement from the process. Oh my god, guys, you gotta look out for those DEI artists. Fucking what? Oh no. Arts, culture, and heritage make substantial contributions to Canadian society and have a positive impact on the lives of many Canadians. We support measures, including those implemented through the tax system, which encourage charitable giving by individuals and corporations to the arts and cultural community. I have talked about this before, and I do not think it is a terrible idea. I do think that it would be a good idea to have, like, a arts and culture initiative that ostensibly helps local cities and stuff hold art festivals, as well as if you are an artist and you produce art, once you read, you should be able to apply for, like, basically a basic income, and it's your job to produce, like, one piece of art like every 3 to 6 months, however, depending on the type of art you're doing, because some art takes just a lot longer. So you just have, like, a check-in where you're like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm building, this is the art piece I'm creating, and that should be bolstered, and you should have at least, like, probably five artists a city. And it can be music, it can be like digital, traditional, dance, like, where these things are, like, encouraged, because, like I said, the maintenance people of society and the maintenance people of culture are your artists. They maintain your culture, they maintain your society, they're the ones who are critical, they're the ones who are making commentary and thought-provoking shit, they're the ones that build a lot of the unity that goes on around, and the care and valuing your local communities. Those are your artists. So if you want a society to thrive, you need to treat your artists like artisans. You need to treat your artists like they're plumbers, at best. Like, you need to pay them. You need to pay them to do the maintenance. Please keep in mind that art is a trade and a skill that takes years and money and effort to learn how to do properly and practice. So I assure you, if you want your city and the people who live in your city to care about your city, start holding an art festival. Shut down like a fucking main street for a day or a weekend and do an art festival and watch how much that will do for just the morale of the people where you live. Especially even if you do it once a year. I would do it once a season. I would do a fall one, a winter one, a spring one, and a summer one. But I digress. Amateur sport. The Conservative Party recognizes the value of promoting amateur sport and as a mean of building legacy and heritage in local communities. Yep, this is another one. Yeah, sport applies the same way. So, like, for example, like in Canada in particular, your local hockey team, your city's hockey team, right? As a means of serving future generations of athletes, we believe in supporting and increasing participation in local and top-tier international sport events. That's great. An investment in amateur sport is an investment in Canada's leaders and in building Canadian representation around the world. Okay, so interesting here is, like, for arts, it's like we want charity and corporations to the art through taxes, right? For amateur sport, they're just like, we want to invest more money and have kids doing sports. The disparagement in the way these two are treated is probably not great. I would probably hail Nero, Chesh, and DEI. Hell yeah, DEI is great. I'm a pro DEI person. Probably because DEI would apply to me. How are you going to pay for this? Again, I don't have a problem with it, but how are you going to pay for it? Having, like, kids have access to learning how to skate as part of school and going on tobogganing trips and skiing trips and stuff, I think that's great. Having, like, maybe having a grant or a subsidy for kids age probably 10, maybe 9. Kids age 9 to, like, 15 getting, like, cheaper access to sporting equipment. Like, that'd be cool. Stuff like that. Rural Canada. The Conservative Party supports that agriculture, agri-food, fisheries, mining, tourism, and forestry must be a priority for the federal government. Support... What? A priority in what? We believe that a priority for sustainability. We believe that the future sustainability of rural Canada comes through flexible, innovative policy based on principles of realistic economic profitability. No, the other way around. The point is to make sustainability profitable, not the other way. Jesus Christ. Rural Canada got one thing? That's it? Oh boy, alright. That's all you have to say is make money? Get bitches? Okay. Alright. The Conservative Party views the agriculture industry to be a key strategic economic sector of Canada. We recognize that various regions of Canada and sectors of the industry hold competitive advantages in agricultural production. National agriculture policy development and ongoing support will continue to reflect our belief that one size does not fit all. Sure. Agriculture policy must be developed only in consultation with the agricultural producers. I agree with that. Our farmers today are business operators, and to dictate policy, which might have adverse effects on this business community, would have negative consequences and go against conservative principles. Depends. I mean, we did just say one size doesn't fit all, and sometimes a policy is going to be bad in the short term and good in the long term. So, yeah. And again, it depends. When you say adverse effect on business, are you saying an adverse effect on profit? Because those are different things. Right? So you can say, hey, this is going to have an adverse effect on my profit, but I'm not going to make as much money, but it's going to make my business more sustainable and more stable. So when you say adverse effect on business, what part of business are you talking about? Logging barons can starve if they can't operate sustainably. Yeah, fair. Balancing financial responsibility. I would like to point out again, the Conservative Party is not financially responsible and have not historically been financially responsible. This document is not financially responsible. The last time they were in power, they were not financially responsible. And the current provincial leaders that are conservative leaders have not been financially responsible in their provinces. Danielle Smith, Doug Ford, on complete opposite sides of the conservative spectrum, same problem. They both suffer from the same fiscal irresponsibility. Balancing financial responsibility with support programs that actually work is a major priority of this party. Work to do what? Food. I like that it just says food. Food, period. Food is one of the basic necessities of life. Don't worry about your mom. They're just being contrarian. Food is one of the basic necessities of life, and we believe the government should place high priority on assuring that Canada's food supply is safe, secure, and sustainable. Yeah, we gotta look out for that. Our giant vat of maple syrup reserve. Let's hope the CBC indoctrinated Mormons don't sell out their Wait, is that a thing? What are you talking about? What? CBC is there a connection between like Mormons and the CBC? That's not true. That sounds like the Jews. We should seek to be among the world's best when it comes to the safety of our food supply. Sure. We encourage measures to ensure accurate labeling of ingredients, countries of origin, and more rigorous safety testing of imported food products. Okay, but you already said you were going to cut all the grants, so how are you going to pay for any of this? I think countries of origin is good. I don't know if there's anything that needs to actually be said. What did I misread? Did I misread food? I hope I didn't. I'll wait. I read things backwards. Let me know what I got wrong. Oh, morons. I read Mormons. Oh my god, I think that is the best wrong read I've done in a while. That's fantastic. Let me reread. Jaeger Wolf, so Wolf. 0000. Definitely not a fake bot account. Because it's got, not only does it have 4 numbers at the end, but they're all zeros. Let's hope the CBC indoctrinated morons don't sell out their grandchildren and the rest of Canadians by voting for Carney and $1 trillion debt. Do we want to break that down? Is this a comment that is worth our time to break down? I mean, I've already discussed that in the past. So if you're curious, by the way, if you're a conservative or if you're a bot and you're curious about Cardi and his $1 trillion debt, we discussed it last time. So we discussed it yesterday. So go watch yesterday. If you want to talk about CBC and selling out, quote unquote, ha ha ha, the liberals spend more money than all previous governments. All previous governments? Does that include other liberal governments? Mm. And again, economics, my friend. Spending money is only a problem if you're not investing it properly. You can spend as much money as you want as long as you make it back. The debt has gone down since Trudeau took office. Can I get a ooh woo in the chat? The pandemic was also a thing. Yes. The pandemic was also a thing. Even the Congo? Yeah, even the Congo? All previous governments, every government that has ever existed, including the Congo government, including the Alexander the Great. Oh my god, I wonder how much, like, conservative tears there's gonna be next week. Uh, Alright. Export and diversification. To ensure that Canada has a secure supply of food, we support self-efficiency in national food production. What? Including increased diversification of the types of food and agricultural products produced. The United States has entered the chat. We encourage government to seek to enhance export opportunities for all agricultural products with special emphasis on... Wait, we encourage governments to seek enhance export opportunities for all agricultural products with special emphasis on markets for processed and finished commodities. Okay. Through diversifying the value-added process and manufacturing will create new jobs within respective communities in Canada. So is that... So, okay, when it comes to agriculture, right, there are limited to... Your conservatives don't cry, they're men. No. It's not that conservatives don't cry, it's that they're always crying. This is my secret, Cap, I'm always angry. When you want to, like, add production of, like, different products, so, like, there are certain things, like, you're not gonna be growing pineapples or oranges in Canada. Like, that's just not happening unless you were to build these massive greenhouses, which would be incredibly expensive and not sustainable and be incredibly energy heavy and add a lot to the carbon footprint and yada 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 yada, right? That's not gonna work. What are they talking about? Like, what kinds of foods are they wanting to import? And you also, when you start growing something new in an area, you have to concern yourself with what effect that is going to have on the local ecology. So that's like a really complicated... They've said this really, like, flippantly, but that is an incredibly complicated process to bring in a new plant, or a new animal, or a new thing to a country. Also, why? Right? Like, why are you doing it? Right? Because, like, you don't necessarily need to. If you have a good deal with another country, why would you want to invest when you're already getting it for whatever you're getting it for? I understand that they're trying to create process and manufacturing jobs, and, like, okay, but do we sell a whole ton of raw material food? Or is it already mostly processed? How often are we shipping cows overseas for beef. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem quite like what they're trying to get at. Sustainability. If we are to ensure that Canada's food supply is assured in the long term, agricultural production must be both economically and environmentally sustainable. Yes, I agree with that. See, if you take one thing in a bubble, yeah, I agree with this. It needs to be economically and environmentally sustainable. We believe that responsible land use and receiving a fair return for growing food go hand in hand. Sure, to mitigate against unforeseen adversity. Huh? Unforeseen adversity. We will continue putting into the hands of the individual producer the innovative economic tools such as stabilization accounts to allow them to respond to changing market conditions and to manage the risks of weather and disease. Okay. You're gonna give money to food producers, which again is going to disproportionately giving money to major corporations. That's what that says. Rural economy. As the agricultural base of the rural economy has declined, so too has infrastructure in small communities. Yeah. The infrastructure in smaller areas is never going to be as good as like the infrastructure in Toronto. To preserve the social fabric of rural Canada, we encourage the government to foster diversity and responsible development in small towns and villages by encouraging innovation in development of small businesses that keep communities alive. But why wouldn't you just invest in the infrastructure? Has it declined? So, no, yes. It depends on what you're measuring, I guess. If you want to talk about, like, the infrastructure in rural areas isn't great. So, like, for example, you're talking about internet, right? Your internet connections in rural areas and small towns is not going to be necessarily great, depending on where your small town is, right? the further you go north, the worse it is. However, it has been improving depending on where you go, right? If you're talking cottage country, or if you're talking about in between cottage country and the city, right? So you're talking about telephone poles that have really low internet connectivity, or telephone poles that should probably be underground instead of above ground, right? Like, you know, so if you're talking about infrastructure, when you're talking about like snow plows, if you're talking about infrastructure, you're talking about like traffic lights, if you're talking about like electricity and how often the electricity goes out and whether or not you're like sub tanks and blah 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 blah, this seems confused at best. My Unfinished Shock for Two said, don't blame slit on Mormon moruns. Like and share. I'm sorry, Mormons. Yeah, roads. Public access, private access roads. Yeah. This is a thing with Canada that probably Americans might not understand. Some Americans, not all Americans. I don't know how much people in the UK would, or even in Australia, would grasp this. Our roads have to be repaved like every handful of years, like all of them. So we rotate, right? Because they get the roads get damaged every winter. So our roads are like, compared to other places, shit. So when Canada talks about construction season, a lot of construction season is just repaving roads. Because the roads get busted up and get frozen and then defrosted, then frozen and then defrosted and then driven on while they're frozen, and like it's a mess. It's messy. So, you know, make better roads. Yeah, that'd be great. There has been talk of like replacing a lot of our roads over time during these construction projects that no, it's really not. I promise you. This is something that has been talked about and tried and tested. So, I assure you it is not that simple. There has been talk about the concrete that reforms itself, but it would be a really big project to just do that. And again, you're talking about cost effectiveness, right? How long would it take, and how much money would it cost to repave all of our roads with this specific type of concrete? And unfortunately, there's just a lot of places where it's not worth the money. So part of it has to do depending on how far north you are or how far south you are, right? Depending on how busy your road is, etc., etc. All these things are taken into account when they decide when these roads are going to get repaved and how much money and effort is going to be put into repaving them. So there's a lot of roads in Canada that aren't paved. Like a shitload of roads just are not paved because we don't care. Like it's not worth it, or we're just not at the part of paving that spot yet. There are a lot of in-between roads, like in-between cities, where there'll be like one road that is paved between those cities, and then there'll be like 3 other roads that are like, some of them are paved, some of them are dirt, some of them are barely roads, depends on where you go. So generally, there will be at least one well-paved road between point A and point B. This also doesn't apply to highways. Highways are a little bit different. They invest more money in the highways. So the highways generally have a higher quality, last longer, and when they do repave them, they repave them they're on a rotation. So like kind of like a crop rotation where it's like, okay, well, it's time to repave the road. That'll be like your 401, for example. Which is the equivalent of like that big road in America, like the I-75 or whatever the fuck it's called. It's kind of like that. That has happened. That happens. That happens where they repave one side of the road and not the other. So one side of the road is completely dirt and the other side is paved. That happens. That's a thing that happens. But yeah, it's not like, it's one of the things that we have to deal with when it comes to our weather, as well as like our weather, our environment. What was I saying? Multicultural trade agreement. Why is there there isn't an extra space. Why is that spaced like that's fucking weird. This isn't spaced like that. Why does this one have an extra? Agriculture and trade agreements. The Conservative Party encourages the government to continue to seek out bilateral and multilateral trade agreements that will improve market access for Canadian agricultural products and reduce foreign subsidies that distort trade and production. Cool. I'm fine with that. That's something that Carney's saying. And that's something that Trudeau has been working on almost his entire time in office. So, I agree with this. Supply management. The Conservative Party believes it is in the best interest of Canada and Canadian agriculture that the industry, under the protection of supply management, remain viable. The Conservative government will support supply management and its goal to deliver high-quality products to consumers for a fair price with reasonable return to the producer. Okay. Fisheries. The Conservative Party encourages the government to work cooperatively with provinces and territories in all regions of the country to put emphasis on protecting and enhancing all stocks. Protecting and enhancing. This must be done in order to meet the needs of Canadians rather than reducing the harvesting and processing efforts to fit declining and mismanaged fisheries. Oh, this is gonna be bad. Oh, this is gonna be bad. We encourage the government to take a leadership role in international dealings with other fishing countries in order to assure cooperative management of common stocks and end fishing abuses, including foreign overfishing. Okay, all right. First off, overfishing isn't just a foreign problem. It's not just foreigners that do that. One of the reasons we're in this trouble is because Canada overfished as well and like just absolutely destroyed shit. However, Canada has taken a really big role in trying to maintain and regulate these things, which does hurt and has hurt Canadian fisheries for a very long time, specifically Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, because they're like heavy fishing provinces. And this is the give and take of long-term sustainability. If you want the sustainability, if you want to have a place to live at all, you need to fucking manage this shit. The St. Lawrence River, for example, the St. Lawrence was like in really, really bad shape, and then we put a lot of fucking work and money and effort and regulations and sacrificed a lot to get the St. Lawrence into a more functional area. So much so that there were actually belugas in it not too long ago. Which there should be, by the way. There should be belugas, there should be seals, there should be life in that area, and there wasn't. And so there's the Canadian government and the Canadian people have put a lot of fucking work into making the St. Lawrence not complete trash. Back up a little bit. How are they going to support and deliver on quality prices for a fair price? Answer, leave it to the free markets. Yes. That is their plan. Tax cuts. Tell me, how is it a fair market if the tax cuts disproportionately benefit one group of people? That doesn't sound like a fair market to me. We encourage the government to maintain its commitment to take custodial management of the stocks on the nose and tail of the Grand Banks and the Flemish Cap. We recognize that fish are renewable resources that can be rebuilt and sustained through proper investment in science and management. Great. Good. I agree with this. We believe in investing significantly in our scientific knowledge base and in making firm and fair decisions based on facts. Great, I agree with that. Have you actually been doing that? With a regulatory and enforcement regime that has the ability to carry out the necessary function. And then suddenly we got authoritarian about it. Responsibility must come from participating regions where more decision-making must be located so that wild stocks as well as aquaculture can be managed appropriately. Big brother! We encourage the government to work with any interested province or territory to increase and streamline mechanisms for provincial management of fisheries. We encourage the government to take leadership role but you want to make it provincially managed. Okay. All right. We want to have our cake and eat it too. We believe the government must continue to support the Canadian sealing industry by working to eliminate unfair international trade bans on Canadian seal products. All right. Well, seals are a whole other conversation. So I'm just going to leave that one hanging for now, and maybe one day if you guys are that interested in the sealing industry, we will come back and we will talk about it. Seasons for a reason. We support a sustainable fishery with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans as the singular regulatory and enforcement body. With all commercial fisheries, non-Indigenous and Indigenous, operating under the same regulations and seasons specifically set out for each species in compliance with the Supreme Court of Canada's Marshall decisions. Oceans and coastlines. The Conservative Party believes that the oceans surrounding Canada on three sides are internationally recognized federal jurisdictions with rights and responsibilities in accordance with international treaties and laws. We support, one, the Canadian government claimed to sovereign rights in the internal waters in the territorial sea in the wait, am I? Hold on, I'm having a brain aneurysm. Contiguous, okay. Sharing edge or boundary. Contiguous. All right, I'm not crazy. I was okay. That G was messing with my brain. Contiguous zone in the exclusive economic zone, the EEZ, and in, on, or above the continental shelf of Canada. The sovereign right to control the Northwest Passage and the Canadian Inside Passage off the BC coasts as internal waters of Canada. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Explore, develop, conserve, and manage living and non-living resources of water column in the EEZ. Explore, develop, conserve, and manage non-living resources of the seabed and subsoil of the continental shelf, i.e. minerals, blah, 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 blah. Economic activities such as the production of energy from water, currents, and winds to construct and establish artificial islands and installations. Yeah, I mean, as long as they're sustainable and they don't fuck with everything, fine. The right and responsibility to conduct marine research, as well as the right to suspend or cessation of marine scientific research activities within its jurisdiction. Yeah. Regulate marine traffic, enforce safety standards, minimize environmental impact, and ensure that foreign vessel traffic is for legal and peaceful purposes only. Yeah, I agree with these things. That's fine. Okay. I again want to ask, how are you going to pay for it? And two, I also want to point out that, again, I will remind you, the Conservatives get to say absolutely fucking nothing about international and foreign affairs. Period. You have no say. You get to say nothing about international and foreign affairs because your leader, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, does not have his security clearance. Which means he does not know what the fuck is going on in the international security field. He has no idea. So until the leader of your party has been held responsible by you or whoever to go and get his security clearance, I don't give two shits about what any fucking conservative has to say about foreign affairs, which includes immigration. You have no say on immigration. Marine protected areas. That's not how words work. Yada 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 was the list of different chemicals and chemical deposits. Marine transportation. Wait. Marine protected areas. We support the protection of marine biodiversity through the creation of the marine protected areas. But you want to cut everything. You already said you want to cut everything. How do you support these things if you're not going to give them money to do it? And then even if you don't cut their grants and their programs, how are you going to pay for their grants and their programs? Because you cut all the taxes. Balance and distribution across Canada's 3 oceans, where there are no renewable and non-renewable resource extractions presently occurring, and after a socio-economic impact analysis on the coastal economy and communities has been conducted. Okay, and not just socio-economic, but also, like, not just the coastal economy and the communities. Those things all need to be considered, but you also need to consider that they are, in fact, marine protected areas. So they still, you still have to consider the fucking biodiversity and consider the global climate as well as the local ecosystem. Marine transportation. The Conservative Party supports the retention of light stations, their personnel, and their aids to navigation. Lighthouses. Light stations are an important contribution to Canadian sovereignty, provide for public safety, especially for recreational boaters, kayakers, and are essential presence to monitoring seaplanes and marine traffic, and assist in the interdiction of smuggling. Sure. We also recognize the historical value of the light stations and promote the concept that they are well-situated infrastructure and personnel, which... Why does this have a whole section in it Is this in contest? Is there arguments right now about lighthouses and not having them? Is that a I'm unaware of this, if this is a thing. Recognize historical value, blah, blah, blah. Concept that they are well-situated infrastructure and personnel which can be utilized for scientific data collection and for other use. We support a strategic plan to address proper docking facilities for all coastal communities across the far north. We believe the government has an obligation to enforce the relevant laws and regulations with respect to pollution by dumping. Okay. Adopt special discharge and navigational requirements for designated areas to prosecute foreign vessels where an actual pollution discharge has occurred. Yep, I agree with that. Provide vessels passing through the EEZ with adequate charting and maritime safety information. Sure. Provide search and rescue capabilities which are comparable to international standards of other developed countries. I feel like we could probably not worry about that and just, I mean, maybe take it into consideration, but we could do better. Establish and enforce safety standards for local and foreign vessels which operate in Canadian waters for the well-being of workers as well as the environment. Yeah, okay, I agree with all those things. This sounds like this is something we're already doing, so Freshwater Fish Marketing Act. The Conservative Party believes that the freshwater fish market. So, by the way, there's a man-made lake in a city not too far from where I live. That man-made lake used to be a quarry, and they turned it into a whole ass its own ecosystem. It's specifically used by the university. The university in that city is one of their main things that they do is agriculture and biology. They also do nursing, but their main thing is agriculture. They're one of the top schools in Canada for top universities in Canada for that. And that lake was a man-made lake, and it went to complete shit. Like, it was absolute garbage. It wasn't regulated. It was like a dumping ground. It was really, really bad. It was like nigh poison. So they did a whole fucking lot. One of the things that they regulated is there are no machine boating, no engine boats. So you can be on the lake, but you have to have a sailboat. It's not big enough for a real sailboat. A canoe, a kayak. As long as your boat does not have an engine, you can be in there. And it has flourished with what they've done. That whole area is absolutely gorgeous now. And I definitely recommend going and checking it out. It's called Guelph Lake. They use it for a lot of science. There's camping grounds there. If you're ever in Canada and you're just like going camping or you're exploring and you're in like the Toronto area, go check out Guelph Lake. I absolutely recommend it. You can just walk. It's great. It's fantastic. 10 out of 10. They used to do something called the Dragon Boat Races, which is like a big old, I don't know, what's the word? I guess it's a festival. And they have like, they have like stands set up, and they do like a race where like different groups in the city all like sign up, and they go and they get these dragon boats and they practice and they go paddling away and do a race. It's really fun. I definitely recommend it if you're in the area. Freshwater Fishing Marketing Act should be repealed and a voluntary dual market be instituted. No. I immediately say no to this. This is a terrible idea. We believe that fishermen currently under the monopoly of the Freshwater Fish Marketing Corporation should be given the freedom to make their own individual marketing decisions and to direct, structure, and voluntarily participate in producer organizations. Freshwater... Hold on. Wait a second. Let me look at this. For a second, because this sounds terrible. Okay, well, that's not opening. Let's try this one. in this act, okay, here we go. Freshwater fish marketing. Yeah, this is what they mean, by the way, when they talk about that the government has to be in French and English. Corporation means the Freshwater Fish Marketing Corporation established by the Federal Act. The Federal Act means the Freshwater Fish Marketing Act, Canada. Fish means round, dressed, or filleted fish of any species enumerated in the schedule to the Federal Act of whether fresh or frozen, and whether packaged or unpackaged, that the fish for commercial purposes and includes parts of any such fish. Poisson. Inspector means a person appointed. Marketing means selling or offering for sale and includes bartering, advertising, packing, processing, storing, shipping, transporting for the purposes of sale or in anticipation of sale. The commissioner may, by order, designate the Freshwater Fish Marketing Corporation established by the Federal Act. Okay, I now understand. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. It's not that long. If you want to read it, here's the PDF. Feel free to peruse it yourself. So the Freshwater Marketing Corporation is a federal body, not a private company. This is a federal body that is ensuring and maintaining, all this stuff they say up here about sustainability and economic and ecology. That's what this does. And if you remember, a few minutes ago, they were claiming and talking about wanting to do more. Right? That's what they said. They said they wanted to do more regulation. They said they wanted to do and encourage more of that. Right? That's what they said. So, why do they not want to do more? This is changing it to a voluntary practice for private companies. You don't do that. Again, corporations and companies are not people. So, no. Absolutely not. This smelled fishy to me. And as soon as I looked it up, I was like, yeah, nope, that's just deregulating corporations. It's just deregulation. No. I hate that. Marine scientific research. We believe the government has an obligation to 1. Promote international cooperation in marine scientific research for peaceful purposes, and 2. Create favorable conditions to study the process occurring in the marine environment through bilateral and multilateral agreements. Cool. We believe that the government should promote opportunities in ocean technologies or blue technologies by identifying and reducing barriers to ocean technologies development and by encouraging collaboration between industry and educational institutions for innovation. Yes. Again. We believe that the government is responsible to regulate activities on the ocean to minimize environmental impact on marine environment. Then why do you do this? I refuse to ask RFK what constitutes as people. Good God. Coast Guard, marine safety, and abandoned vessels. The Conservative Party emphasizes our commitment to maritime safety by implementing an institutional change to transfer the Coast Guard back to the Minister of Transport, and the Coast Guard bases are operated using a cost-effective plan via the creation or upgrading of facilities that can effectively and efficiently respond to marine safety matters. How are you going to pay for it? The Conservative Party stand by its commitment to facilitate rehabilitation or demolition of abandoned and derelict vessels. Sure. While the Conservative Party supports government legislators in Pacific and maritime ridings to consult with scientific and technical experts and implement decisions based on independent scientific data. Great! This would all be fine. I'm okay with that. The problem is, again, the elephant in the room. How are you going to pay for it? You already said you wanted to cut funding. You already said you wanted to cut grants. You already said that you wanted to cut taxes. How are you going to pay for any of these things? Where is the money coming from? Where's the money flow? Everything is a confusing contradiction. They want to be able to point to something in the document to please both sides without any kind of concrete plan. No name, you're absolutely right. And you'll notice this if you watch Polyev talk. Like, if you listen to Polyev and you watch him at his rallies and on his campaign trail, which we will do. We're going to do that. You will notice... You will notice that he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have, he's got slogans, he's got slander and trying to, like, throw shit at the other party. I mean, like we saw here with that definitely not a bot account, right? Liberals are traitors, they're gonna blah, 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 blah. Okay, but tell me why I should vote for the conservatives. I have yet to have a single conservative come in here and tell me why I should vote for these people. The closest they get is, the conservatives have a plan for this. Okay, what is it? Or the conservatives' plans are better than the liberals' plans. Okay, how? And nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. The conservatives are not able to have a conversation. They don't understand economics. The thing that they care about the most, they don't understand. So in other words, populist bollocks. RNGD's got it. RNGD's got it. This isn't conservative. This is not conservative. This is authoritarian. This is regressive. That's what this is. It's populist bollocks. We've already got Polyev talking about how he wants to use the non-whatever clause. Fuck. I did this last time too. What's it called? Hold on. The fucking, I keep thinking non-disclosure. Notwithstanding. The notwithstanding clause. This is the notwithstanding clause. For anybody who cares. I'll also provide this. It's in the link before. It's in the link, or it's in the chat there. This is the notwithstanding clause. We will talk about this later. I'm just not going to talk about it right now. I'm going to wait until we're actually looking at what Polyev is saying. Then we'll take a look at it. You know, you've seen it 5 months ago. You were thinking you were going to vote for conservative, but very quickly into their campaign, I changed my mind. Appeals to conspiracy believers. Yeah, you're right. I don't think anybody who's a real conservative actually agrees with the majority of these things. I also don't believe that most conservatives want or like Polyev. I think the Conservative Party needs to do more to kick out this authoritarian horseshit, this right-wing extremism, which is what it is, out of their party. Because there are conservative things that I don't disagree with, right? And there are things that the conservative people think that I would agree with. I agree with being smart about money, being fiscally responsible and being fiscally conservative and cautious and with a lot of forethought about how you're spending your money. And I think most conservatives are on board with that, right? I don't think most conservatives disagree with spending money on food for kids. I think that they're tentative about, okay, but where are we getting this money from, and how is this going to work? Which is totally a reasonable thing to think and a reasonable thing to be concerned about, right? Because you don't want to screw yourself over, right? Make things worse in the future. And that's where the understanding of economics and investment comes in. because for every kid you're giving a lunch to, for every $1,000 you're paying on into a child, you're getting money back 30 years in the future, and you're making more in tax revenue and socioeconomic status overall. But alas, numbers. Marine wharf infrastructure. Anger, hate, and fear are powerful. Yeah, you're right. 100%. I just think we need a change from Trudeau, but I am not one of those guys that think he broke the country. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm on the same page. I think Trudeau stepped down when he needed to. Maybe he could have done it a little sooner. That's a nuance that I'm like, nah, I'm fine with a changeover in Trudeau. I agree with that. More center left. So you're a Carney guy. Carney's very center. Marine wharf infrastructure. Canada's wharfs are the highway infrastructure of our commercial fishing industry. We will implement the investment called for by the House of Commons Fishery Committee to the Small Craft Harbor Program to ensure the sustainable growth of jobs of the industry dependent on them. Sure. Immigration and refugees. How long is this? Oh, it's not too long. Yeah, we can do that one too. All right, immigration and refugees. Immigration principles. The Conservative Party supports a nonpartisan, welcoming, and well-managed immigration system for Canadians based on... No, you don't! You're not welcoming to immigration at all. Who are you fucking kidding? 1. A fair, transparent, and efficient process that earns the respect and confidence of Canadians as well as the international community. Do we not have that? 2. Compassionate measures to assist in family reunification. Okay. I think this is the first time I've seen the word compassion in this entire thing. Ensuring that Canada is successful in encouraging skilled immigrants and their spouses and children to make Canada their destination of choice. Skilled immigrants. We don't want none of you plebs. 4. A clear, workable, and efficient process for immigrants to obtain equivalency for their international skills and training experience. Yeah, okay, I agree with that. 5. Addressing the need for adequate long-term funding for settlement services providers. And 6. Upholding Canada's humanitarian tradition of providing safe haven for refugees. Okay, I agree with these things. Now, how are you going to throw it under the bus? Tell Elmo. Settlement support. The Conservative Party wants to ensure that immigrants have the best possible opportunity to contribute to Canada's economic and social well-being. Support from settlement organizations and the border community play an important role. The Conservatives believe in working cooperatively with the provinces and municipalities on policy relating to settlement support for immigrants. Addressing the need for adequate and equitable resources to provide language instruction in order to allow immigrants to achieve functional capability in one of the 2 official languages. Encourage adaptation to Canadian values and traditions and community monitoring, build job search skills, and offer other settlement services to meet the needs of immigrants, including children. Okay, so you need more languages than just French and English. So you need more than that. You're gonna need more than just those 2. As for, like, adaptation to Canadian values and traditions, mentoring. Community mentoring. I mean, it's not, on the face, that's kind of fine, but it needs to be, like, curtailed. It needs to be reasonable. I don't trust the Conservative Party to not what encourage adaptation to Canadian values looks like. Like, what does that mean? What do you do to do that? Working to streamline the funding process to deliver enhanced funding stability and allow long-term planning by service providers, and examining the feasibility of having federal funds for settlement services follow the movement of newcomers from one region to another. Immigration by temporary workers. The Conservative Party recognizes that temporary workers can be a valuable source of potential immigrants because of their work experience in Canada. We believe the government should, one, continue to develop and pilot projects designed and address serious skill shortages in specific sectors and regions of the country, and that attract temporary workers to Canada. Examine ways to facilitate the transition of foreign workers from temporary to permanent status. Work to ensure that temporary workers, especially seasonal workers, receive the same protections under minimum employment standards as those of... Okay, that's fine. I agree with these things. Entry applicant... Then why is their rhetoric so anti-fucking immigrant? Why are they like, immigrants are ruining the country? I don't... This completely flies in the face of the things they say out loud. Entry applications, permits, and landing fees. The Conservative Party endorses changes made to the application process which minimize stress and uncertainty for applicants and their families while reducing the backlog and meeting the economic needs of Canada. We also endorse the lowering of landing fees for new immigrants. Okay! We believe the government should ensure that Citizenship and Immigration Canada is properly staffed, trained, and resourced to improve the processing of people waiting to come into Canada. Reorganize the application process so the applicants are given accurate information about what to expect and are readily able to obtain information on the status of their files and are given a service in consideration in a professional manner. Okay! Reverse the liberal policy of separating married couples while the application of the non-status partner is being processed? What? Is that a thing? Yeah, I'll be with you in one moment, Energy. Extend automatic Canadian citizenship to children adopted from abroad by Canadian parents once adoption is final. Provide options... It depends on which countries the immigrants come from. Yeah, like, what the fuck? Provide options such as the posting of a bond to allow higher acceptance rates for families and other special visits while protecting the integrity of the system from queue jumping. Posting a bond to allow higher acceptance rates. So, if you have money, you can get in. I don't like that one. That one I'm not a fan of. Reduce the need for temporary resident permits, TRPs, issued by the minister by making the application process fairer and more efficient, and make the use of TRPs by the minister both transparent and accountable through the process of independent review. Okay, that already happens, but also I don't think reducing the need for this is necessary. If you do one, the other should follow. You shouldn't need to reduce it at all. There should just be less usage of it if the application process is faster. Refrain from using the term resident or residence in temporary student and visitor visas to ensure greater certainty for those temporarily visiting Canada. Recognition of international credentials. The Conservative Party believes in providing new immigrants and Canadians with foreign qualifications with the best possible opportunity to use their education experience here in Canada. Sure. We see this as a matter of fairness to them and their families, and a means to ensure that Canada receives the full benefits of foreign qualifications. Sure. We support working with the provinces to develop, in consultation with Canadian professional and trade associations, a process to value standards in countries of foreign in order to establish a workable system for assessing and recognizing credentials and experience. We support working with the provinces to, one, ensure that equivalency exams are fair and they accurately reflect the level of understanding expected of the individuals educated in Canada. Yeah, okay. I mean, the provinces disagree about things in some of these areas, so what is greater certainty there? I don't know. 2, to develop, in consultation with Canadian professionals and trade associations, criteria for obtaining equivalent Canadian professional status, transitions and bridging programs for interrogation of foreign qualified individuals into the Canadian workplace, and work with recognized professional bodies to pre-qualify internationally trained individuals for a certain occupation as part of the immigration process. Pre-qualify is interesting, but I don't hate the concept. We support requiring the credentials process to be disclosed by applicants. To applicants by immigration staff overseas, and on the Citizenship and Immigration Working Canada website. We support encouraging international students graduated from accredited Canadian colleges and universities to remain and work in Canada. Sure. We support developing a better system to identify Canada's occupation-facing current labor market shortages and make the immigration system more flexible to ensure the needs that can be met. So they want more immigration, which is the opposite of what they've been saying. On the other hand, also, if you want to encourage student visas to get work in Canada, you should give them temporary working visas and make citizenship streamlined for students. Refugee determination. The Conservative Party is proud of Canada's humanitarian tradition of providing a safe haven to those who have had to flee their homeland, and we welcome refugees to Canada. We believe the government should promote the integrity and fairness of a refugee determination system and should ensure that decisions are made expeditiously and with respect for due process and the safety of Canadians. Sure. But when you start running around being like, the immigrants are wrecking our lives and the refugees are bringing in foreign blah blah blah, you're okay. That's a problem. We believe the current appeals process is flawed and moves far too slowly. We believe in streamlining the process for validating refugee claims. Where the Immigration and Refugee Board find claimants do not qualify as genuine refugees, ensuring such individuals are escorted from Canada in a timely manner and provided with the information they need to start the proper process of applying for immigration permit from abroad, giving greater priority to refugees identified pursuant to the United Nations Conventions relating to the status of refugees, implementing a fully merit-based process for immigration and refugee board appointments? Oh, they want to get rid of DEI. Developing a refugee appeals process that is fair and timely. Birthright citizenship. We encourage the government to enact legislation which will fully eliminate birthright citizenship. Holy shit! In Canada, unless one of the parents of the child is born in Canada, is a Canadian citizen, or permanent resident of Canada. So no birthright citizenship in Canada anymore. Alright, well, there's the bomb dropping. Okay. Well. Wahoo! Holy shit. So we're on page 52 out of 58. We're on page 44 of the document. We're going into foreign affairs next. We made it all the way to you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow and we're going to finish off this document. And on Friday, it will be Star Trek game in the afternoon. But on Friday, we're going to start looking into, we're going to be doing a special. And we're going to be watching Carney and we're going to be watching Polyev doing their speeches and speaking to, on their campaign trail. We'll probably just stick to those two because this is very much a two-party election right now. This year, at the very least. I hope to see the NDP make a comeback next election cycle. I really like to see that. And I'd like to see the Conservatives lose again and again and again. No, I'm not doing it. No. I'm not doing another 40 minutes. We're at our time frame. Thank you so much. We're gonna get out of here. I appreciate it. I'm gonna be over on Low Energy Vids, so if you just want to go hang out over there and chat, we're gonna be playing Final Fantasy Crisis Core, which I have determined is not canon and is in fact just a fan fiction to make money and fangirls happy. The fangirls honestly didn't need the help, but I'm sure they appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm about to hit that 4K. I'm about to hit that 4K subs. So if you want to, give me a hand on hitting that 4K sub mark, come on, man. Cut me some slack. Thank you so much. I'm going to get out of here. I hope you all have a good day. And I'll see you for the finale tomorrow. Bye.